Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here and your time for joining the board, and for our new members. I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order today. Nicole, if you will give us a roll call, please.
Lisa Bell,
Here.
Micah Colley,
Here.
Stephen Dixon,
Here.
Deborah Harley McClaskey,
Here.
Preston Mitchell.
Here.
And Pi, could you pronounce your last name for me? Oh, Pi. Can you hear me?
He may have frozen. Looks like he's frozen.
Oh, he's frozen. Oh, hi,
There he
Pi.
comes.
I apologize. I don't know what happened.
That's fine. Could you pronounce your last name for me?
That's Mushayamunda.
Okay, Mushai. But yes,
Yep.
I'll work on that.
Yeah, it's pretty phonetic, so it's a fun little game. If you see my name at the bottom of the screen, it's Mushayamunda. Just break it up and
I've got it.
Yeah.
And Vice Chairman Bill Forrester
Here.
and Chairman John Baker.
Here.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we do have a quorum, so you may move
Excellent.
forward.
Thank you so much. We need, our first order of business is we need to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Nicole sent those out. Has everyone had a chance to look over them? Are there any additions or corrections that need to be made? If not, can I get a motion then from the floor to accept the minutes as they are?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second on that, please.
I'll second. This is
Thank
Bill.
you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. I believe we also have to do the approval of the special called meeting that we had as well from October. Is that correct? That was from that special call meeting that we had, Nicole?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Nicole did send those minutes out. Do we have any corrections or adjustments to the minutes?
Move
Could
to
I
move.
entertain- Okay, could I entertain a motion then to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Can I have a second then, please?
Second from Stephen. Okay.
Stephen, a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. We do not have any further old business. So now we'll go to our new business. And again, like I said, welcome very much to the people that have joined the board. This is their first meeting. I'd like to go around. I have my computer is on my television. The monitor is on my television screen. So I have you all in front. So I'll just kind of go so I can keep everybody in order. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and that sort of thing. And if you have special talents or anything bringing to the board, that's always handy to know. So you can be on committees. So Debbie, if you'd like to start off, please.
Oh, goodness. Okay. I have lived in Johnson City for, I don't know, 35, 36 years, long time. I feel like a native. I have had a 30-plus year career at East Tennessee State University, both as an administrator and as a faculty member. I've done a fair amount of grant writing, publishing, written 2 textbooks. I've helped create our service learning program and engage students in a lot of community work. So nonprofit, I teach nonprofit management, I teach leadership development. So I do a lot of training, both in the nonprofit and for-profit world. And I have 2 daughters and a grandson. And so keeps me busy, and I love to be active. And that's a lot about me.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Micah, would you like to go next, please?
Sure. Born and raised in Johnson City. College graduate from UT Knox. Although I do have the E on my head. My wife my wife is currently getting her master's in social work, so she bought me that. I had to find the time to wear it, so this is the time. I'm also a realtor, small business owner, currently on a few boards. This will be, I guess, the third. So just looking to help the community any way I can.
Thank you very much for participating. Lisa, would you like to go next, please?
Yes. I was assistant director at ETSU for 23 years. Left ETSU 2018. I've been a realtor with Herd Realty here in town since 2019. I am a notary and have a notary signing agent business as well. And I help run a trucking business for my husband also. And here I am. I thought this would be a committee that I could put forth some balance to and help assist the community, and here to do what I can.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining. And Pi, if you'll be next, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you can tell by my name, I am not originally from Johnson City, Tennessee. Quick background. Family and I moved to the States when I was young. I was around 10 years old. We lived in Winston-Salem, North Carolina first, and then we moved to the mountains of East Tennessee. My parents got into a little seminary called Emmanuel at Milligan. So that's what brought us here. So went to Milligan for my undergraduate studies, and then ETSU, master's in public administration. I had a concentration in nonprofit management and had the opportunity to work at Good Samaritan Ministries for a few years. Started as the programs director and then became the chief operating officer. And then last year, I decided to take a pivot in my career and move into the business world. So I'm now at Cleaner Security Systems, working there. But my passion has always been serving the community. And even though I'm in the business world, I really want to continue to use my giftings, grant writing. Some of these grants I saw ESG was on the agenda. I've worked with that before, so I'm excited just to continue to serve in this capacity, because that's what makes me alive, and it's good to see some familiar faces on here as well.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go on now. We have a housing and community development bylaws. Preston, are you going to take that one, or?
Sure, I'll be glad to. For some of the new board members, I'll be glad to introduce myself as well. My name is Preston Mitchell, and I'm the Director of Development Services. Our office handles all planning functions for the city, planning and zoning, building, permitting, inspections, code enforcement, those kinds of activities. And so the planning department, or development services, is we are also the kind of the direct link to the housing and community development operations, our CDBG and ESG operations, which, as you know, are handled through the Housing Authority. Stephen Freeman does a fantastic job of acting as the administrator of these two programs on behalf of the city. And so Stephen and Nicole and I work very closely together, along with Richard, the director of the Housing Authority. So that's kind of the marriage between the Housing Authority and development services. Just a little bit of background on me. I've been in this position just a little over 2 years now, so I'm still a short timer, kind of a newcomer here. I'm a native Tennessean, so I'm thrilled to be back in Tennessee. I grew up in Chattanooga, and then worked in 2 other cities in the Southeast, and then spent the bulk of my time in just over the mountains in Salisbury, North Carolina. Lived in Winston, actually, so was hearing folks mention Winston-Salem. We moved here from Winston in 2018, but was with Salisbury for about 15 years, and really enjoyed it. Beautiful part of the country. Always, first of all, always, for any of the board members, new or veteran, always feel like that you can reach out to myself or to Nicole and obviously to Stephen for any questions about the program, about the work that the board is doing, allocations, anything. So feel free to always reach out to us. Our emails and phone numbers are on the website. So this particular item, the assistant city manager, Bob Wilson, and I were talking several days ago, and this was really after the appointments, the new appointees were appointed by the city commission. The bylaws, and this predates me, may even predate Nicole, but the bylaws were amended several years back to allow up to 21 members. And I don't know if we've ever had up to 21 appointees.
Yeah.
I understand that probably when that was done, it was probably done, in little bits and pieces over time. And I think that, there was an effort to just continue to grab additional folks from our neighborhoods, from our sensitive neighborhoods and those neighborhoods that this program serves. But I think that the conversation with Bob and I is that we really need to, at a staff level, need to continue to help and guide the city commission to make the appropriate and best appointments, i.e. you folks who just joined as our at-large, and then also reaching out and finding the most appropriate and folks from our neighborhoods and communities who seek to be a part of these conversations, as opposed to just having a pool or a roster of trying to fill 21 spots. And so the idea is that we amend the bylaws to cap the membership at about 11, maybe 9 to 11 to 13 max. Not necessarily change the makeup. I think the makeup, we all agree, is appropriate in terms of, agency representation, that being FTDD, ASP, Eastern A, some of our agencies, those folks definitely need to be a part of the board. And then the at-large members like yourselves. And then, myself, I represent staff or on the city side, along with Stephen and Nicole, and Bob Wilson. But then outside of those folks, then, have a couple of slots for neighborhood representation, for the neighborhoods that we serve. So no need to make a decision on this today. This is not at all an action item. What we wanted to do was just initiate this as a conversation. Maybe we can talk about it a little bit more throughout the spring. We just would want to make a recommendation to the city commission to amend the bylaws sometime before July. So we obviously have some time here. We just wanted to bring it up, that this was something that's been discussed at a staff level. So I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Well, one of the reasons that we were having so many originally, and this goes back to when I joined the board about 5 years ago, I believe, we were trying to get at least 2 representatives from each one of the neighborhoods throughout Johnson City.
Right.
And so in doing that, that would require a larger board number, and that's where that number actually came from, was with the supporting staff that we needed, and then representatives of the different neighborhoods. But we found that that was very difficult to get participation from a lot of the neighborhoods. And so the board has always never reached that maximum, and we've basically had about 9 to 10 people on the board. So I can certainly see where I'm on the board of the Pride Community Center here, and 11 is a good number for us to be able to work with, and I think that should give us a fairly large representation. So thank you for bringing that up, Preston. And that is something, if you guys would like to discuss that at this time. I was going to say, since Preston introduced himself, and I apologize, I should have really done this for everybody, but I'm John Baker. I've been on the board for about 5 years now. As I said, I joined the board as a representation from the West Davis Park Neighborhood Association, which is near downtown. I live on West Holston, which is just the other opposite of the Tree Street, so to speak. I am a retired designer. I was a designer for 52 years. I grew up all over the world. My father was in the military. He was American. My mother was English. I still have relatives in England and travel to England quite often. Of course, not with COVID, of course, but and I am also very interested in being able to offer my talents and my knowledge to help further the betterment of life for everybody involved in Johnson City, that lives in Johnson City and works in Johnson City. I'm a great believer in diversity. I'm also the chair of the board of Pride Community Center. I co-founded that 8 years ago, and I'm the chair of that. I am also on the board of Arch in advisory capacity. And thanks everybody for being here. In the bylaws, does anyone have any comment on that? If they would have any ideas or comment at this time? We will have, I believe, one more meeting. Is that right, Nicole, before the July? We would need this taken care of in July. Is that correct?
Yes, we meet again in April.
Yeah. So if anyone has anything that they'd like to say at this time, if not, we can then revisit this in April and determine and pass a motion to try and amend our bylaws to represent the board as we see that it needs to be. Okay.
I'll just comment that 21 is a pretty large board.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cumbersome.
Yes.
And, you know, reducing that size could be very helpful, I can imagine. You know, wanting to have input from the residents is important. I don't know, some organizations have a board and that has functions as this does, and then an advisory board or advisory committee that may or may not be easier, or designed so that it's easier for residents to participate, and that they would have a liaison to this or something like that, and or, you know, ad hoc kinds of memberships to try and keep numbers to a reasonable amount. I'm just throwing out ideas.
Yeah. Well, we never really had the active participation or the interest in joining the board from a number of our neighborhoods throughout the area at Johnson City. So we never had the 21 people on the board. But I agree with you. I think it's easier for us to have a smaller board just simply for the ease of handling a meeting and everything like this. We have a lot of talent on our board, and I think that with that, if we need to go and advance out and go into advisories for somebody else, then that's something that we could certainly look at in the future.
Something else too is that, as you know, anytime we meet, and I put this on us, I put it on the city and Stephen and our, you know, at the administrative level, as the responsible parties for this, that anytime the board meets, if we wanted to have opportunities for, you know, general or public comment, that we really do a better job of engaging the neighborhoods and offering up an opportunity to folks to either virtually now during the pandemic or post-pandemic come to the meeting and speak, as opposed to obligating folks to you know, serving on a board if they're not able to do that for work purposes or whatever. Giving folks an opportunity and us at the city engaging those neighborhoods and really marketing our meetings, so to speak, that there's an opportunity for folks to come and speak. So just because we're reducing the number, or there's conversation about reducing the number on the board, is not in any way, shape, or form synonymous with trying to limit engagement. I think there's other ways we can do that.
Yeah.
John, this is Stephen. I was just going to state that I know we've added some new board members. And so I would like to see currently who the active eligible board members are and what areas they're representing, just so that we kind of have a better feel for, as the membership is stated now, kind of where the representation is coming from. And I'm certainly okay with paring it down to 11 or 13, but just at the same point, I'm a little bit curious as to how the membership is made up now, before we make that final change. So by our next meeting, that would just be helpful for me to have that information.
Stephen, you could get that out for us, couldn't you? Don't you have a list of us? And what, like I said, I represent the West Davis Park Neighborhood Association. And that, but you could get that for that. I'm sorry?
Actually, I have all that.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay.
So
Nicole.
I can actually, I've already got it put together, so I can shoot that out to the entire board after the meeting today.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that'll take care of that for you then, won't it, Steve Dixon?
Yes, that'll be perfect. Yep.
Excellent. Thank you, Nicole. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're welcome. I know Stephen's a busy man, so I try to do as much of the admin stuff that I can, because he wears multiple hats.
Yes. Yes, Stephen is very hardworking, and to all the board, if you need any questions answered or anything like that, procedurals, Stephen Freeman is definitely the one to go to. He has all that information for you and can get it to you if you have any questions. Okay. Well, we'll take that up then in our April meeting to amend the bylaws. Continuing on, the First Tennessee Development District Community Block Grant. Bill, do you have a report on that? And if you'd like to just give a little bio of yourself as we go, so that, again, for the new members.
Yeah, that'd be great. My name is Bill Forrester, and I'm the Director of Community Planning, Housing, and Development for the First Tennessee Development District. First Tennessee Development District was established, there's 9 of us across the state of Tennessee. We were established in the late 60s to help communities with economic and community development. So we do a lot of grant writing, a lot of administration of grants. We do community development block grant. We have home programs, a lot of federal grants like EDA, ARC. We also have planning in our office. So we do some planning for local communities. We serve 8 counties and 20 municipalities across the area. So we do a multitude of things. So my departments are community planning. So we work in most of the communities with planning services. We also have our housing. So in housing, we have a consortium. There's 7 communities that have gone together. They get direct funding from HUD. So we utilize those funds to help people with rehab, reconstruction of their home. We also do some down payment assistance with those funds. We also have our Johnson City CDBG, which I'll talk about here shortly, that we administer, typically about $250,000. We do rehabs and reconstructions within the city of Johnson City. Johnson City is also participating in the consortium as well, so they get funding through that program. We also have home grants that we get through the Tennessee Housing Development Agency that we work through. Those grants go directly to the communities. We administer those on their behalf, and typically we do reconstructions and rehabs with those dollars as well. So we have a lot of different variety of programs that we work with. I also do a lot of EDA and ARC grants on the side of that as well. So quite a few things that we do here at the Development District. Just going into my report, we have got most of our money spent already, which is very exciting, or at least committed. We currently have about $59,000 remaining And what we're trying to do is we're waiting to see if there's going to be any change orders on these other programs or projects that we've got ongoing before we commit those funds. We do have applicants ready to go, ready to move forward. And we're already starting to plan for next year as well. We're trying to stay on top of this, trying to get ahead of the game, and be ready for additional funding in the coming years. But we have closed out 3 projects and got 2 underway right now. So we feel like we're really moving really well in Johnson City.
Thank you. Does anyone have any comment or questions for Bill?
Sorry.
Debbie.
So Bill, are these federal dollars that come to the district or federal that goes to the state that then comes to the district? How does that work?
Which funding are you speaking of?
I'm
It's-
assuming you have
okay.
multiple streams
Yeah.
coming in,
So-
but
So the consortium money is HUD money, so it's fed directly to the communities. THDA is HUD money to THDA, then to us, or to the communities, and then we administer that on their behalf. Johnson City is CDBG money, so that comes from the state. So it's all different. EDA is federal money. ARC is federal to the state. So it's just different pots of money coming. Most of it is state, but some of it is federal as well.
thanks.
You're welcome.
We try and pool all of our resources, and Bill is very good about that, and the consortium to pool the different, even though it's from it's all from HUD money, but it comes in different directions through different groups, that we have criteria that we need to meet to be able to apply those funds to whoever asks for them. They have to meet a criteria, and each one is a little bit different. That gives us the ability to kind of pool all of it together and see where we can best make use of it according to the criteria needed by each of the different groupings. Is that correct, Bill?
Yes.
Yeah.
But with these housing programs, each homeowner has to meet a criteria. First of all, they have to own their home. They have to currently live in their home. There is a scoring criteria based on, we don't just go and pick here and there. It's people who apply, and then we have to actually go down the scoring criteria in order to get, make sure that we're following the right criteria to get them, work on each project. So, it's not, we've had I can't remember how many folks we've had. We've probably had 30 or 40 at one time on a list. We've kind of pared that down. We've really been able to knock several out over the last few years. I feel like right now we're making good progress, and we've still got, like I said, several on the list that we're going to try to get prepared for next year. And in order to do that, we have to do an environmental review. So we're trying to knock that out in the beginning before you all actually give us the additional funding to move forward so that we're ready to go in the coming year.
Bill, explain, because now a number of these things are doing projects for handicap, redoing pieces, and actual reconstruction. There are different levels of what the person or the people that are involved need.
Sure. We have an inspector that actually goes out and looks at the home. That inspector then determines exactly what needs to be done. So for instance, a rehab would include probably, we have to bring the house up to code. That's the criteria. Okay, bring the house up to code. So the inspector would go out and say, okay, well, it needs a new roof. It needs new windows. It needs an HVAC unit. It needs this, several different things in order to bring that house up to code, to make it energy efficient and code. We also may go to a house, or the inspector may go to a house and say, you know what, this house can't be brought up to code for $50,000. We need to reconstruct this home. So we actually tear that home down and then reconstruct that home for an energy efficient 3-bedroom, typically a 3-bedroom home, 1 bath. We've got several plans, either a shotgun house, depending on the lot, or a regular ranch style home that we build. It's about 10,092 feet, something like that, 1,100 square feet home is what we build.
And we also, part of the goal is to allow people to remain in their homes. If they become
Absolutely.
disabled, we can go out there and put ramps in or adjust bathrooms to make them handicap accessible. The whole idea is that we want people to stay in their homes. And also part of this is by having a home that is falling down in a neighborhood, if we can bring that back up to code and make it livable for the people, that also enhances the neighborhood itself. And that's, of course, one of our big things is that we're trying to build up our neighborhoods around so that people will feel comfortable and have a good quality of life.
That's right, John. And what it does is it spurs other folks, hopefully in that neighborhood, to fix their homes up and to do, so we can't work on every house, but hopefully we are addressing issues, with this one house that then will then spur others to do the same thing to theirs.
Yeah, build our neighborhoods.
That's
Mike,
right.
do you have a question?
Yes. How is this a process initiated, so to speak? Is it usually initiated by the homeowner, or is it totally initiated by the city?
Yeah.
The inspectors? What?
We try to get folks to apply. So we'll do advertisement. We've also had public events where we've tried to get folks involved, to then come out and apply for this money.
Okay.
And we're not the only ones that receive the CDBG money.
Mhm.
There's others throughout the community that also get this money as well.
Okay.
But we do try to get as many applicants as we can get because we want to help folks, throughout the region, or really in Johnson City with this particular funding. But yes, we've held public events. Unfortunately, a lot of folks don't either own their home or they live, they have a situation where they just don't qualify. We again want to help everybody that we can that will qualify for the funding.
That was going to be my next question: is what merely is the qualifications, and
Usually,
can they get a hold of that on the internet or online?
I can actually send that out. If Nicole, if you don't mind, I could get that information to you, and could you disperse that to everyone?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, just shoot it to me by email and I will get all of that out.
Okay,
Awesome.
I'll do that. I'll just send over an application. How's that?
Awesome.
Just so that so that they can meet the criteria. Not everyone meets the criteria, but if they do, then we have ability through ASP or Habitat for Humanity or Bill's group that we can help the people that do qualify for assistance.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Anything further, Bill, or you're on? Another one of the things that Bill said about the 59,000, when we're given this money, depending on from the funding source, we have an obligation to make sure that it goes to those that qualify, but we also have to be sure that the money is spent by the agencies that are doing the work. And so that is very important. A number of years ago, we fell behind because a number of projects did not actually get accomplished. And when that does that, our monies are reduced. So we want to try and spend every penny that we get to help our community and that sort of thing. So, but the 59,000, as Bill said, we have people that are waiting now to maybe say, okay, we need another 20,000 to do this project or something of that nature. Then we have that money that we can get to them to finish off the project that they said we needed 80,000, but we need 20,000 more to complete because of certain situations or something of that nature.
Right.
So that 59,000, we should have information on that to appropriate by the April meeting. Is that right, Bill?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're just waiting right now. We want to make sure there's no change orders out there or anything that, we don't want to commit funds that we really don't have. Although we have those, you understand what I'm saying. Yeah, if there for some reason a change order were to come down, on one of the other projects that's already committed. So And that's the other thing, you know, I don't know when we're going to start talking about funding for next year, but I definitely want to talk about that with the committee because of the increase in pricing that we've seen, you know, due to COVID and the hurricanes and everything else. And the fact that a new home now is costing, you know, a brand new home is costing anywhere from 120 to, you know, $135,000. We are really wanting to look at maybe seeing if we can't bump up the $250,000 that we requested in the past. But that's, you know, I don't know when that is the right time to discuss that, but that's something we definitely need to look at in the future.
Yes, yeah. The prices of all building materials have gone up tremendously in the last year, and we anticipate that they'll go up even higher. We had all the fires in California and that sort of thing. So the cost per square foot of building a house is going to be increasing just simply through materials, not necessarily labor, but definitely materials are rising substantially in every aspect of a build, from electrical fixtures to plumbing and wood and siding, anything of that nature. So, yeah. Let's see. Preston, do you know when do we have to have that allocation for this year? When is would that be in the July meeting, or would that be in the April meeting that we'll start discussing the appropriations for this coming year?
I'm going to lean on Stephen, because the federal government, HUD, will be releasing that information to, I believe, Telly and then to Stephen, right, in terms of what our dollar amounts will be for the next fiscal year.
Yeah, so that should be coming fairly soon. We'll probably have a called meeting in February or March. That's when we typically have it, to both discuss the ESG budget and the CDBG budget for next year. So that will probably be in March, is what I'm going to say. So
Okay.
I will add this, Mr. Chair, that I would like for us to, last year, we did a much better job of and I don't mean that in a comparative sake to previous staff members, but last year, Stephen did a great job of pulling the budget together, the recommended budget together, so that we could get that to the city commission in an appropriate manner. And so we just want to make sure that when those numbers do come from HUD, that folks be able to meet for a called meeting in February or March. I know that that's not part of our normal quarterly schedule, but that way it helps us be able to get all the right documents together before the end of the fiscal year. The other is, and I wonder for the benefit of the new members, Stephen, if you could, and you tell me to hush if you're going to do this in the portion of your presentation, but we really operate out of three big pots of money. And I wonder whether or not the new members would benefit from understanding, just like what Bill was doing, explaining kind of how his operations work as it relates to the dollars, the different pots of money. And we really operate from three big pots of money, one being the CDBG, that's the Community Development Block Grant Funds, which are HUD funds, because we are an entitlement city. So we get an X number of dollars from HUD. I believe it's based on population. Is that correct, Stephen?
one of the factors.
One of, yeah. And then related to the CDBG dollars are our home consortium funds. We are a part of a home consortium made up of, I believe, is it 4 cities total? Is it Johnson City, Bristol, Kingsport, and Bluff City?
It's 7 communities.
7, forgive me. Okay.
7.
And see, I'm still learning, guys. And this is why Stephen does his job really well. And then the third big pot of money is our ESG, which that actually was a new
new concept to me coming from North Carolina. That was not something they had over there. And so I think it's a real blessing that THDA has these emergency solutions grants dollars to assist with homelessness and shelter ministries and things like that. So we have the home consortium dollars, the CDBG dollars, which is I think the biggest pot of money, up to around $500,000, and then ESG, which are really state dollars for homelessness. So I just bring that up. You may be touching on that here in your report, Stephen, but if not, if you'll fill in anything that I left out or correct anything that I garbaged in my little comment there.
Yeah, so of those kind of pots that Preston mentioned, so the home dollars, we're part of the consortium. Bristol is the head of the consortium, so they collect all the dollars there and then divvy it up, and a lot of that work goes through the First Tennessee Development District, and so we don't have a lot of planning as far as how that whole money is getting spent, since we are a sub-agency, and it's a lot of that is Bristol. For the other two pots, so the emergency solutions grant is for homeless, or those at risk of being homeless in the community. We receive about 150,000 every year. Here, let me share my screen.
I think it was 160, wasn't it, last year?
It's 150,000 plus a 7.5% admin on top of that, so it's 161,250. What it ends up as. So there is the budget as decided last year for the ESG this year. A bunch of that money goes to Fairview Housing, the Manor House here in Johnson City. Frontier Health also has, it says Safe Passage. I think they changed the name to Safe House now, but it's a domestic violence shelter that they run. And then some of that money also goes towards the shelter that Salvation Army has. And so that is how it was divided up this past year, and I believe the year before it. And so we are spending that. That's about, does anybody have any questions about sort of how the ESG gets spent, or we administer it? All right. Well, moving on to the community development block grant. Oops.
Let me go back while you're pulling that up. Chairman Baker, did I answer your question?
Yes, I think you did. Yes.
Okay, good. All right.
Thank you.
So the community development block grant funds, the past few years on those, we have received about $500,000. We have primarily used them for doing the housing rehabilitations and reconstructions like Bill talked about earlier. There's quite a few things that you could do with those dollars, but we have found that to be a beneficial way to spend them. And here is the fiscal year 2021 budget that was decided upon last year. So again, the district, they got the $250,000. Appalachia Service Project also receives a good portion of the money. Eastern 8 is doing 80,000. They're working with Auburn College to actually make some kind of a new energy efficient, cheap kind of home. So I'm excited to see how that will turn out.
So here, Steve, I've got a brochure on that. It's called the Rural Studio. It's pretty cool little thing they're doing. So it's pretty neat. It's energy efficient homes that are smaller, but I think they'll be really nice for our community.
Yeah, 30,000 was going towards Salvation Army. They were going to use that to rehab, I think, the bathrooms there at the shelter.
Yeah.
And we also set aside 65,000 for the purposes of land acquisition. I don't know if Preston has anything more on this, but that sort of goes with the Langston project. So I've got a few pictures in a minute here, but within the past years, the Langston Center was repaired and made into a very nice community center. We have spent some previous community development block grant dollars repairing the sidewalks and streets in the neighboring area. And currently there are some empty lots sitting across the street kind of in disrepair. And so that money was set aside perhaps with the intention of buying those lots and then maybe building some homes there. I know Appalachia Service Project has expressed interest in using those lots to put some of their race to build homes.
Hey, Stephen, while you're on that, can you, will you, just for the benefit of the board and especially for our new members, will you let me share my screen and I'll touch on what you're talking about? Thanks. And you know, I think part of the other benefit of and I appreciate you mentioning that, bringing that up, because I think it also speaks to, can everybody see the map?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
I think it also speaks to a larger conversation about, you know, what do we as a board, not what do we as a board, how do we, as we move forward, not only with this upcoming fiscal year, but future cycles, this conversation, which we've had before, about really maximizing our rehab and reconstruction dollars. You know, there's every single dollar and every single home, even the one-off in a neighborhood or in a block, provides good quality housing for somebody who needs it. One of the things though that we try to also do is not just provide good quality housing, but also lift up the neighborhood, lift up an entire block. So you're really, you know, kind of following the whole rising tide concept. And so when you look here at the Langston Center, I think everybody's familiar with all of the improvements that were done on this. I mean, this is a catalyst project for this neighborhood, for this community right here. You do have some substandard and some homes that struggle along East Myrtle as well as along East Fairview, and then even here along this old brick street, which is Wellborn. As part of the Langston Center project in last year's budget, and Stephen, correct me where I misstate, in last year's budget, there was $212,000 set aside for sidewalk and street improvements in this entire block, of which we've begun some of those improvements, not all of them, but that will be great to have some of those street and sidewalk improvements done. Then the 65,000 that Stephen mentions, those funds would be used to purchase lots that are adjoining one another, or even if they don't immediately adjoin, are within the same block face or within, you know, the same general vicinity, so that you're making a real positive impact in a concentrated area. And so, for example, this house right here was purchased by the city. We actually closed on this. Let's see here. We closed on this summer of last year. So this was a house that's across the street from the Langston Center on East Myrtle that severely deteriorated, and was an opportunity to purchase that. I don't know if it's already been demoed or not. But if not, it would be. And then if we're successful in being able to purchase these other lots, again, really opens up opportunity for Bill's group or for ASP to be able to come in and make an impact, not only on the product they're providing, but on the neighborhood. And so, it's that kind of two-pronged approach, which really we want to have that conversation as we move into our budget cycle.
Built well, and it's building up our neighborhoods throughout the city. Eastern Aid is right there on Watauga, and they're also interested in possibly having one of those lots, empty lots there, to build a house on or two. And then ASP has also said something about building a house. So if we can start doing that and start building houses that look good in the neighborhood and bring people in, then you do really start to acquire that neighborhood feeling and pride in your neighborhood. Of course, the street repairs are helpful. It just makes the quality of life for the neighborhood and for all the neighborhoods around it to get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Stephen. Thank you, John.
Yes. Stephen, do you have anything else on yours now?
Yes. So I wanted to also, so that's sort of the normal CDBG, but as part of the CARES Act that was passed last year, there's been a whole bunch of extra funding. So we received some extra ESG CARES Act funding and also some extra CDBG CARES Act funds. The ESG CARES Act, we just recently.
You have this on a slide, Stephen? I'm so sorry.
I
Just so
have
that-
the CDBG part. I don't think I have the CARES Act part.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Bring it up again. Yeah, so the ESG CARES Act part, we just signed the contracts on that. I think 176,000 was given to Manor House, and 70,000 was given to the Frontier Health Safe House for those ESGs. So I will be getting the contracts to them shortly, and then they will get to work on spending that money. But for the CDBG CARES Act funds, here is a breakdown of what was done with the Part 1 funding. So that totals up to 313,000. We gave a bunch to Second Harvest so that they were able to purchase food and expand their freezer storage. Gave some to Frontier Health for both their Turning Point facility and Safe House. Some went to Manor House, and a bunch went to Salvation Army as well, both for their shelter and for helping families behind on rent. So very helpful there. So that was the Part 1 funding. The Part 2 funding for CDBG CARES Act is 522,000. This we have not budgeted yet. The deadline for when this needs to be amended into our plan is this August. So it's not something that has to be done immediately, but it does need to be done soon. I've talked with Preston and Richard some about how we can possibly budget that 500,000. But as of this moment, there are no concrete plans around that.
Can I get a little nugget of clarification, Stephen? The action plan or allocation of those dollars, or any amendment to an action plan, and the allocation of those dollars has to be done by August of 21. But do the dollars themselves, do the receipts and the expenditures extend into 22? Is that correct?
Yeah, so the deadline for amending it into a plan is August 2021, but the deadline to have those funds spent isn't actually until 2024. So there is some time, once this actually gets put into a plan, there is some time to spend all these dollars. Although there's a distinct possibility that we'll be getting even more funding depending on what the Biden administration chooses to do. So I don't know about that, but we will wait and see, I suppose. So here I've got a few pictures just of some of the work that's been completed recently. So this is actually one of the rehabs that the district finished up last year. So as you can see, we talked earlier, about making places handicap accessible, or especially as people with disabilities. So there's a new ramp that was constructed and added to the back of a house. I believe they also got new HVAC system and a new bathroom to make it a walk-in shower, as well as putting some grab bars around in the bathroom. Here's another rehab they completed, I think towards the end of last year. That one's over on Watauga, but a new porch there, some new doors, a new roof because the roof was in really bad shape, as well as putting in some new flooring in the bedroom and bathroom. And that was pretty good there. And here's a picture of the sidewalks over there on Myrtle, right by the Langston area that we were just talking about. So it's the full plans are to do a whole big stretch of Myrtle and then a couple of the streets running across as well. So those are underway. If you drive by over there, you can take a look at the progress there. And that's all I have that I wanted to share, unless there are any questions or comments or anybody would like clarification on anything.
I've got one question, Stephen, based on our phone call we had before the meeting. Were you able to glean how much of our regular CDBG funds were spent by end of 2020 calendar year based on that conversation from last July?
Right. So of the during the fiscal year 2019-2020 year, a bunch of projects were delayed right when COVID hit, and so we amended the contracts to push kind of the ending date. All of those that we were planning have been finished except for the Langston project. So the Langston project was delayed as well, but it is going underway. So all of the money, though, that we had budgeted has been spent or has been put into the fiscal year 2020-2021 year. Because when we were making the budget, we knew how much we were going to have left over. And so those leftover carryover funds, we went ahead and budgeted for the current year.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does.
Okay.
It does very much so. Something I would offer up to and I know that Chairman Baker was alluding to this, but I would just encourage any of the new members, Micah and Lisa, Pi, Debbie, today in this last hour, you've been drinking from a fire hose. And so there are no bad questions. There's a lot to process here with these three big pots of money and the work that these different agencies are doing and the work that the city is doing. So please do not hesitate to unmute and ask anything that you feel is confusing or maybe missed, or even send emails after the fact, because we appreciate your all's willingness to serve We appreciate your engagement and your investment in this group. As you can see, these are large dollar amounts, but they're doing, every single dollar is doing some really good work. So don't hesitate to reach out. There are no batters or there are no bad questions, especially as a new board member. So jump in.
Yeah. Stephen, did you have anything else to add to your part of it?
That was all I had
Okay,
planned to.
thank you. And I'll now open it up to the board. Does anyone have any comments, questions, queries about what we've done this afternoon? Again, it's a learning curve when you get on this board. It took me a little while to get used to it all as well. But it is exciting. Bill may have all the numbers, but I think, how many houses did we rehab last year, Bill? There were a substantial number, isn't that correct? Can you?
You're on mute, Bill.
I don't have that in front of me, but I think it's, gosh, it was a bunch.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly. I'd have to go back and look at my numbers to say exactly, but we try to get as many as we can with the dollars that we have. Of course, when we do a reconstruction, that utilizes a lot of money. And we want to do rehabs to keep people in their home if possible, but if we can't bring the house up to code, that's what we have to do. We have to go to a reconstruction.
If I may ask,
Yes,
you probably don't have an accurate number, I'm sure. How many homes did you guys have to tear down, do you think?
In the city of Johnson City or in?
Yeah, just in the
Okay.
city or the whole district. I mean, obviously you're probably not gonna have an accurate number, but just to get a touch of, what you can even go percentage wise. If you feel like
normally it kind of runs about, if you want to look at percentages, probably about 60% rehab, 40% maybe reconstruction, or maybe not even that much, maybe 70-30. We know that dollars are short. Okay, we don't want to utilize or do a reconstruction if we don't have to. But if an inspector goes in and figures out we cannot do this house or bring this house up to code for the $50,000, then that's when that determination is made to do a reconstruction. Because again, it's going to be 125, 130 to build a house now.
Okay. Now, does that usually happen with if the homeowner is living in the house? So we make accommodations for them? Or?
Yeah, they usually will find a place to live. They normally live with a family member. We don't put them up while we're building the home. They usually find a place to live. But the contractor will bring in a unit, a pod or something like that for all of their stuff out of their home while the construction is going on, typically.
Bill, you want to say the limits on it? We have a limit that we can go on reconstruction, and there's one that's for rehab as well.
Yeah, the limit on the rehab is $50,000. So anything above that, we would have to look at a reconstruction. A reconstruction can go up to $149 for a 3-bedroom.
And that's per project? Is that per project?
That's per project. Yes, sir. So if you're looking at it from the standpoint of, you go out, look at a house that needs to be torn down, inspector goes and does a work write-up. He'll do a work write-up on this particular property that says, okay, we're going to build back a brand new home. And he puts in all the components of this house, and then we actually bid these houses out.
Okay.
Contractors come back in, and again, those bids have been coming in for a 3-bedroom about anywhere between 125, 130, 135, depending on the property. There's variables that take place, but for the most part, that's about the range. But we can go up to 149, which gives us a little bit of room if there's some change orders for unsuitable soils or something like that may be on the property.
And a lot of times on our rehabs, it's just adding, like one there that Stephen showed us, where we added a ramp and made the bathroom handicap accessible. That that money can be used for that. And so then, like if we do that 30,000, we've got 20,000 that we can put that back into the pot that, you know, is appropriated to whatever we do. We have different groups that rebuild houses or rehab, whatever, on that sort of thing. So that gives us the ability to make our money go as far as we possibly can.
Absolutely. If I'm looking at it right here, we've got 3 that we just completed. All of those were in the range of, you know, 26.9, 23.1, 24.5, you know, roughly on those. We've got one that's currently in progress. It's 24,950. So, you know, we're trying to do as many rehabs as possible with those dollars. Again, if you're doing a reconstruction, you're going to eat up all of your money.
There's another important piece to this that is worth noting, especially those new members who may not be as familiar with the CDBG program. That is that all of these projects and these dollars are going towards owner-occupied properties. The number one, that's important because those are the HUD rules. But number two, there's another piece to that, and that is where the city, our department, dovetails with the work that you all are doing. There's another piece in our department, the code enforcement side, where we have 3 code officers who patrol the city and enforce minimum housing standards. And those minimum housing standards are outlined in both our building codes and in our municipal codes. We do a lot of inspections, minimum housing inspections on owner-occupied property, but the bulk of our minimum housing inspections are on absentee owner or tenant-occupied spaces. Unfortunately, CDBG dollars cannot be used for tenant-occupied spaces, and that's hard. That's real hard. Because we have some good quality landlords in town, and then we have some that are not. And so the work that you all are doing for owner-occupied properties is invaluable. And then the work that the Board of Dwelling Standards and Review, which is another board that is appointed by the City Commission. And for example, they meet tonight. So if you're interested in witnessing a Board of Dwelling Standards meeting, it will be, actually that one will not be live. So if anybody, I'm just tossing this out there, if anybody's curious about witnessing the Board of Dwelling Standards meeting, myself or Nicole can send you the Zoom invite. I believe it starts at 6 o'clock. But that board is our minimum housing board, and they work really hard to ensure that those tenant occupied or landlord owned homes meet minimum standards. And that's a rough job right there. But they do some good work. So your all's work with owner occupied, and then there's the code enforcement side. So we're all one big army here in trying to lift up our neighborhoods and improve the community.
That's right, Preston. And ASP and Eastern 8 can build new homes, like the empty lots that you're talking about, or those properties where we come in to rehab or reconstruct homes that are owner occupied. So there's the difference in the organizations.
Yeah, great point.
Well, and we're lucky with the code enforcement. A lot of times that can give us a lead to someone that is living in a house that they own but is substandard, and then they can inform Bill or ASP or Eastern 8 or whoever it is, that we can then maybe get them the help that they need to rehab their home to make it livable and compliant with code, and again increase the good feeling in our neighborhoods.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, I can tell you that as somebody who canvassed a whole lot of neighborhoods in the last 6 months, we ought to be able to take our canvassers and funnel some of the feedback of whether it's rental property or what appears to be owned neighborhoods. We saw a lot of interesting things.
Yeah. And the biggest problem with that, Debbie, is a lot of times those are not owned or occupied. They are owned by people that rent them out.
That's correct. John.
And as Preston was saying, it's very sad that owners that rent them will not really take care of them the way that they should, and they are not. But it is a constant battle because, again, you are talking about people that's private property, more or less. But that's why our goal is to help owner occupied, not the landlords. We don't want to help the landlords in any of this. This is for people to stay in their own homes because they own their own homes. Yeah. Does anybody have anything else that they'd like to ask or talk about? Our next scheduled meeting is April 29th. Our meetings are the fourth Thursday of the month at 12 o'clock. I would imagine this says the municipal building, but I would imagine that we may still be in Zoom because our rollout of the vaccine is not happening at warp speed. Instead, it's sort of like a snail's pace. But then we also know that we are probably going to have a special call meeting in February or March to discuss some things. Nicole will send out an email in this. But it's usually always the fourth Thursday of the month. So that makes it easy to plan your calendars so that you can be free to attend.
Chairman Baker, I saw Pi unmute for one split second.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this. Is there any kind of impact reporting for 2020 for all the numbers as far as like the resources that we dispersed and the impact for all the nonprofits? Is there anywhere I can access that?
Stephen?
Are you just wanting sort of a report of, I guess, all the previous like CDBG dollars? Is that the question, or more like a comprehensive study?
Yeah, just a comprehensive. Interested to see how many homes that we're able to rehab, how many nonprofits we're able to serve.
Okay. I will get something prepared for the April meeting for sure. At the March one, we'll probably just kind of discuss the budget, but I will put something together.
Oh, great. Thanks.
And I'll also tell you, Pi, that Stephen is working on a plot of the city to indicate homes that we have rehabbed or new construction or whatever, so that we can get an idea of where in the city these monies are used, and then how they can then help to bring up the rest of the neighborhoods around them, and that. So he's working on something that you can have that for the March meeting as well, couldn't you, Stephen?
Mm-hmm.
And that just gives us an idea of where pins on a map to see where we're doing and what we've done. And because we've done this, then we've got 2 more houses that are being built. Once we can bring up a neighborhood, then the builders themselves, individual builders. I have in my neighborhood over here on Watauga, we have a couple of houses that were built by Eastern 8, and now there's a private guy that has gone in and has rehabbed the house and that sort of thing. So it helps to bring the whole neighborhood up. Anything else? Well, as I said, we'll have a meeting scheduled as the 29th. Probably we'll have one in March. Nicole will send that out. If there's nothing further, I'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you so much for everybody for your time and for participating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.